Hello, she now. She's still in Taiwan?
No, she left.
No, she left Taiwan.
He's going to see before husband goes to prison.
DUI?
DWI.
I don't think he's gonna go to prison.
I
for
don't think so.
Okay.
I didn't hear all this. Why would he go to prison?
He admitted a DWI.
Oh, crash. He was
DUI?
DWI, driving.
wild ducks.
Yeah, that's DUI, driving under the
I
influence.
saw it coming and then it disappeared.
Hi, Mr. Bromberg. Good morning.
I'm sorry, I must be ignorant. What is BWI?
DUI,
Driving while intoxicated.
driving under the influence, also known as driving while intoxicated.
He was
He was using alcohol or drugs while driving.
while driving.
Right.
Okay.
He had over an 8 on the on his count.
Oh my
I
God.
didn't. I thought you said BWI. DWI.
Yeah. Just walk
Drinking while driving and drunk while driving.
Right.
Yeah.
Driving while intoxicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, hi.
All right.
Good morning.
All right, I'm going to start with our learning sponsors. Year of Learning, Friends of Nina Monester, Nechama Azna Bad Yitzchak Aharon, many friends of Stephen Vigdor. V'zechen Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi, friends of Marcy Kurtz, in memory of her great niece Leah Bracha, Isaac and Evelyn Blachler, in memory of his sister Chaya Rachel Bas Isser. Have a month of learning by Mark Linder, in memory of his mother Yona Bat Zalman Leib, by Rabbi Isaac Schmerler, in memory of his wife Menya Sima Bat Yitzchak Isaac, by the Friends of Marilyn Schmerler, in her memory Menya Sima Bat Yitzchak Isaac. Book of Learning by Alan Blumenfeld, in memory of his father Gershon ben Hachaver Pinchas HaKohen, Dave and Mendel Cheswell, in memory of his mother Bela Bas Meir, Sam and Shifra Coleman, in memory of his father Yaakov ben Shmuel. We also have today is what's today's date in English, right?
Today is August 5th.
August 5th. We don't have any individual days of learning at this point, okay? But we also include still Refuah Shlema Tzemach ben Yaakov Yitzchak. Amen. Shemas have an aliyah, crank Rafia, Velti Yeshua Shemat Aliyah, and the Chol B'nai Yisrael, a good gebenched yar.
Amen.
Now, I want to indicate we are have covered the necessary stopping. Okay.
To make up for.
All right. So today's shiur is actually Sunday stuff. Okay. All right. So that is going to put us momentarily on Lamed Bet, Amud Aleph 32a.
32A.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start, however, on the bottom of 31b, whatever it is, B4, B5 in Art Scroll.
Can you show me where we are? in
Before.
31b4. Okay. Towards the very bottom of 31b. All right.
I'll go.
Exactly.
I'll go. So
Okay. So I'm going to start.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mhm. Okay, so that's where we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. Ruvain, you're on?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I am, Rabbi.
Okay. All right, we still didn't get Michael to learn how to use Zoom.
I'm gonna try.
All right. Tell him this is a cheap way to get out of trying to fast. Okay, so what happens? We have seen so far in the Gemara a number of issues. Okay, the last of major issue of which was an attempt to make comparisons between different situations where an individual was subject to two transgressions. Okay, and we maintain the practice, as Mel has reminded us this morning. Mel, what is it? Yeah, okay, that's all right. Okay, in other words, if there are two transgressions that a person commits, okay, well, then the example the Gemara gave us was a person stole some olive and then ate it. They stole inappropriate fat and ate it. He's transgressed stealing, which means he would have to pay a fine. And then by eating the fat, he is subject to another greater punishment, which in that case would be what? Kores?
Orange.
Okay. Now, they compared that to another situation in the Gemara, okay, to try to clarify, okay, why is it, isn't there one single act as opposed to two different acts? But the Gemara comes back at the very end, okay, to try to come to a conclusion, okay, and therefore that's where it brought us towards the end.
We talk about the acts being done simultaneously.
Right. Well, that was what that, in other words, that was the rationale that they tried to present to say it's not two acts, but a single act. Okay. The example that we used was throwing the arrow in the public domain in Shabbat. The arrow tore some silk. Okay. That could argue that that was a simultaneous act. Okay. In that situation. Okay. So that, all right. And then we got into the idea of pulling the animal, whether the animal, okay, who owned the animal, things like that, so on and so forth. Okay. So we're now to, as I said, to the very bottom of 31b, whatever it is in our scroll, B3, before. Haba al Okay, so again, this is part of the Mishnah, okay, and it implied, okay, that there was a knas. We said that there was a fine, that the rapist, okay, who did that act had to pay a fine to the father of the girl, okay, right? And in addition, he was forced to marry her and he could not divorce her. Okay. Now, or minhu, says the Gemara, but we'll contradict this with the following statement. Elu hein alokim. These are the individuals who get flogged. Okay, they get malchus, right? Haba al achoto. So the very first one is one who raped or had relations with his sister. Val achot aviv, on his, okay, paternal aunt. Val achot imo, on his maternal aunt. Val achot ismo, and on the his wife's sister. Okay? Val eshet, okay, or the brother. So it's again, sorry, a sister-in-law of some kind. Va'al eshet achi aviv, and on the wife, the brother of his father. Va'al hanida, and on the woman that is in nida at that point. V'kai malan, as we go now to what is our new material on the top of Lamed Bet. Okay, and remember, I'm telling you, I've said this would be Sunday's daf. Okay, v'kai malan de'eno lo shalem, but we mean that he doesn't receive flogging, but he paid. What happens? Amar Ula. Ula says the following, lo kasha, there's no problem. Kan ba hana'ara. Okay, here with regards to this na'ara, this girl who's between 12 and 12 and a half, he has to pay. Kan ba'ach Garrett. Other, however, is that if his sister is above 12 and a half years old, then he would be flogged. That's the implication.
He would not pay the knas, he would only
He
pay.
wouldn't have to pay the knas.
Right.
Right. Right. So the Gemara says, Achoto bogeret nami. Okay. And his sister is 12 and a half plus also. Ha ika boshet upagam. But wouldn't he have to pay something because there is embarrassment as well as one translation has deterioration, another translation might have depreciation.
Depreciation.
In other words, remember there are certain 5 items that when one commits a physical act to another person, okay, they could be subject to financial penalties. Okay, so this is an example of 2 of them: boshet, embarrassment, and pagam, deterioration, whatever. Okay, so the Gemara answers to that: bishota, that the sister was a shota. She was a ignoramus. Okay? In other words, she didn't have the mental capacity, okay, to so why that should change the
He would not
requirement.
have shame. The more that's what the article says. Because she's a shota, she doesn't feel shame. She
Okay.
doesn't.
All right. Well, that we'll see. We'll see about that. I didn't like that Perush, by the way. Okay, just because she's a shota, because she may not understand the implications of the act.
Right. But that, I mean, all right. I don't know how else you want to explain it, but okay.
Okay, Boshet Pagam is Rashi, the Gabe Knas, who the Ba'inin Na'ara, aval Boshet Mamonahu. Okay, Pagam, right? Ki'ilu hi shifcha nimkeret b'shuk, kama, etc., etc. All right, I'm not happy with Rashi either, as you often know. Okay, but I will accept the idea that as a shota, as a woman that doesn't have total mental capacity, she may not comprehend, okay, that money is due her under these circumstances. Okay, Vaha ikatsara. So the Gemara says, but wait a second. Certainly she would comprehend that there is suffering, right? But B'mafuta answers the Gemara that she was actually older than 12 and a half. She was more like an adult woman. And here she was seduced, okay? And because she's an adult woman and seduced, in that situation, she does not, she nor any parent, the father, receive any knas, any fund, any money. Because the implication is that seduction is considered, in many cases, acquiescence. Okay? So, hafta atit lahachi. So the Gemara says, now that we've come to this understanding, afilu tema achotona ara. We might even say, you might even say that this applies to when a situation when she is the sister, but between 12 and 12 and a half. Okay. So the answer here too is biyatuma umifuta. But we're talking about a situation where she's more like an orphan. So therefore there is no father who would get the payment. And the fact that she's a mifuta, that she was seduced, again, implies that there is no payment, but the man would get lashes in that situation.
Correct.
All right. Alma kasava. Therefore, this seems to tell us that Ula is of the following perspective, the following opinion. Kol hecha deika mamon umalko, any situation where there is a combination of punishments, of paying a fine of money and the flogging, mamona mishalem, he pays the fine, milka lo lake, but he doesn't receive the flogging, the lashes. So the Gemara naturally should ask, and does, mina leila ulaha, on what basis does Ula derive this? Okay, so the Gemara suggests, Gamar michovel b'chavero. He learns it from the example of an individual who harms his neighbor. Namely, machovel, this would be another Gemara, another mission. Machovel b'chavero, de'ika mamon umalko, whereas harming, injuring, okay, physically injuring another person, it means that there would be both payment and flogging. Mamona mishalem, milka lo lake. He pays the fine, but does not receive lashes. Afkol hecha deika mamon umalka. So likewise, any other situation where there is the dual punishment of paying a monetary fine and lashes. Okay. Mamona mishalem, he pays the fine, milka lo lake, but he does not receive the lashes.
You're saying to me that I would say lashes are more than money, and I'm surprised that the money and not for the lashes. What did he do? He causes it. The people should know what he did. He's what do you call those? Like post Why is that?
No, I know, I understand what you mean. Sid, it's a good question.
No, I'm not a good question.
Why not?
Why is Barab in this particular case? You want to teach everyone else? You see this guy over here?
Okay,
Well, we're flogging him because what he did.
okay,
So-
but all right, so let's come back.
He's a pedophile. What do you want me to say? Which is worse?
Okay,
Money or
all right,
pedophile?
so let us assume, all right, so you're both correct. It would seem logically, says Sid, that in this case, the flogging should take precedence. Mel is
Well,
right.
everybody for sure would know. Paying money, nobody knows. Okay.
Right, okay, but, okay, I'm not disagreeing with you. However, Mel's response is not totally invalid, okay? Because the act could have occurred in private, okay? And the Beis Din then does not want to embarrass or impact the status of the young woman,
It's a Moshe Shema already.
right?
What?
Okay, and so in that case,
Moshe
right.
Shemra, putting out a
he's
prayer.
putting,
He has to, if the act incurred in private, but he still has to pay Boshus and Pagam.
right,
He's
he may have
paying
to pay
for
the-
that.
Good
He's
point,
paying.
Ruben. He may not, Ruben's point is he may not be paying the knas for the rape, but he would have to pay the other items of Boshus, Pagam, it's Tzara.
Which- Right.
It doesn't say that, okay? But that's a good point that everybody has raised, okay? All right, let's go on, because the Gemara is going to say, wait a second, maybe that's not the valid means by which Ula comes to his conclusion. Let's suggest an alternative. Okay? So the Gemara goes on, but coming back to what we said, Malichovel b'chavero shekain chayav b'chamisha dvarim. But the Gemara says, hold on a second. When you cause personal injury to that other person, you would be required all five items. Ve'imamona lakula. And word be that we would think paying money, which is really, Sid, your point here, that paying money is not the stringent, not the most severe punishment. Shekain hutar miklalo b'veit din. Why? Because that is permitted as the entire situation in the court. That's exactly your complaint, Sid, right? It's simply done in the court, and there is no real punishment. So therefore, the Gemara rejects that as the basis by which Ula would learn his principle, and tries to come back with another alternative. Remember, Ella always tells us, reject what we suggested before. We now come to another alternative attempt at a perspective. Gamar me'edim zomamim. Maybe Ula learned it from the example of false witnesses. Okay? Namely, ma'edim zomamim de'ika mamon umalkot. Just as with these false witnesses, there is also the payment of a monetary fine and flogging, lashes. Maybe mamona mishalem, milka lo lake, that they pay the fine and they don't receive flogging, lashes. Afkol hecha de'ika mamonu malkot. So Ula might have logically considered, likewise, any other situation where we have dual punishments of monetary fine and flogging, right, lashes, mamona mishalem, milka lo lake. One pays the fine, one doesn't receive the lashes. But the Gemara says, hold on a second here. Mala edim zomamim, shekain einam tzrichim hatra'ah. But wait a second. You can't make the parallel because there's something unique about the situation of edim zomamim. Namely, with edim zomamim, they don't receive any warning. Ve'imamona lekulahu. And if you're going to say again that paying the fine is the lesser punishment, shekain lo asuma aseh. It's as if then they did no deed. Ella,
Because by Adam Zomim, they didn't do anything. They didn't
did
cause
not.
damage. They said they want
Right,
to
it's
put the
what
guy
they
to
said.
death, but
Exactly. It's what they said. They did not do an act. Therefore, there was no warning. And as a result, they had, right? It's not considered the situation that would require both money and lashes. Ella, rather, says the Gemara, let's try another alternative, how Ula could have based it, right? Gamar mitravaihu. Maybe he learned it from both of these cases, all right?
from Adam Zomim and the Chayv.
Right, both chovel chavero and edim zomim. Right? And what do we do when we take two cases? Okay, we know that we use hatzad hashaveh. What's the common factor between them? So that's what the Gemara says now. Mahatzad hashaveh shebahen. What is the common factor between the two of them? De'ika mamon umalkot. That both of them would have a punishment of paying a financial fine, monetary fine, and lashes and flogging. Mamona mishalem, milka lo lake. Pay the fine, and one would not need to receive the lashes. But wait a second, says the Gemara. Afkol hecha de'ika mamon umalkot, mamona mishalem, milka lo lake. Ula would then carry it forward and say, therefore, any other situation where we have dual punishments of paying a fine and lashing, malchus, okay, flogging, pay the fine, one doesn't receive the malchus, the flogging, the lashes. So the Gemara challenges it and says, wait a second, malahatzad hashaveh shebehen. If you're dealing with the common factor between them, shekain yesh bahem tzad chamor. But in the case we have a stringency with this example, ve'imamona lakula. Okay, and if you say that monetary payment is the lesser punishment, who shekain yesh bahem tzad hakal. Is there such that here there's also a leniency to them? We just said that they both have a more stringent aspect. Okay? So what happens? Ella, rather. So we can't use the tzad shaveh, the common characteristic between chovel and edim zomimim, as a potential basis for Ula's perspective, right? So we go now to the new Amud. Ella, what happens, says the Gemara? Another example. Ula is going to use a different view. What are we going to say that Ula uses? The Gemara says, Ella Ula tachat gamar. He learned the Gezerah Shava, right? And that's what Rashi tells us. Gezerah Shava mufnahi. Okay? V'lomdinan ve'ein meshivin. Maybe he learns a Gezerah Shava here, where one, at least both words are available, and therefore there is no counter argument to destroy the Gezerah Shava. Okay. A Gezerah Shava means I have two examples of situations, and they have common language. And based on the common language, I say that there are other commonalities between them. Okay? So what does Ula say? And the Gemara is going to tell us this now. Kativ hacha, it's written here in one place, right? And notice the Gemara cites Devarim Kaf Bet, right? Gives us there our example, all right? According to his guilt, all right? And that is, right? Namely, Tachat Asher Ana. Okay, that's the phrase. Ukativ Hatam, and it's also written here, right? The following, Ayin Tachat Ayin, an eye for an eye. Right? Mahatam, we're there. In the one case, Mamona Mishalem Milka Lo Lake, who pays the fine, does not receive flogging, lashes. Afkol Hecha, the Ika Mamona Umalkot, Mamona Mishalem Milka Lo Lake. So therefore, based on that example, okay, right, he would indicate that pays the fine and does not receive the lashes. Okay, so we're still dealing with flogging versus pay, right? Rabbi Yochanan Amar, says Rabbi Yochanan, wait a second. Afilu tema, if that's the case, he said, afilu tema achotona ara. That then would apply, okay, also to his raping of his sister, who was a 12 to 12 and a half, okay, where he would have to do, right, kan shehitrubo. And there, maybe we're talking about a situation where he was warned, kan shelo hitrubo. Okay? And here, when there is no warning, in other words,
he would pay money.
No warning. He would
pay money.
Pay the fine. Where he's forewarned, then he would receive the lashes. Okay, that would be the point there. Alma. Okay, therefore, kasava Rabbi Yochanan. This seems to imply that Rabbi Yochanan is of the following opinion: Kol hecha deika mamon umalkot. Any place where we have the dual punishments of paying the fine and lashes, v'itrube, and they warned him, milka lake, mamona lo mishalem. He receives the punishment of lashes, but he doesn't pay the fine. So the Gemara asks, minale the Rabbi Yochanan ha. On what basis does Rabbi Yochanan hold this? Okay, we just went through a whole series, right? Where we saw what basis did Ula hold the opposite. Now we say, where does Rabbi Yochanan get his view? All right, So we go on. Amakra says a pasuk, Torah pasuk, Kedei Rishato. Okay, dealing with his, let's call it wickedness, his misbehavior, right? Mishum Rish'a Achat Atam Echayvo. Because of a single act of wickedness, you find he transgresses and he's obligated. V'i Atam Echayvo Mishum Shtei Rishayot. But you don't find him punishable. Let's put it that way for a moment. Out of two acts, but, says the Gemara, v'samichle. But following that example, right next to it is another pasuk that says, Arba'im yakenu, that we will receive lashes. Right? V'harei chovel b'chaveiro. And here we also have the example of one who physically injures his neighbor. De'ika mamonu malkot, where we have there two punishments, paying the fine and receiving flogging. Mamona mishalem, the money, excuse me, the fine he has to pay. Milka lo lake, but we're saying he doesn't receive lashes. V'chitema, and if you want to say, hani mili heche de lo atrube, that this is these words, in other words, this scenario comes out where you don't want dance.
So therefore, he doesn't get lashes, but he pays the money.
Getting the lashes, but only pay. Aval itrube, but where they warned him, malka lake, he does receive the lashes. Mamona lo mishalem, but he wouldn't have to pay the fine.
Right.
Rabbi Ami, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. But didn't Rabbi Ami say in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Hikahu haka'a she'ein ba shave pruta loke, that if he struck him with an injury that wasn't even worth a pruta, nevertheless, loke, he still receives lashes.
Even though an injury that's less than Shabbat Pruta, you would not pay money for.
Normally you wouldn't pay, right?
Right.
But
So you
here he does receive lashes.
right.
That would seem Rabbi Yochanan holds really that even in a situation, if you don't pay, you receive lashes.
Lashes.
Certainly in a situation where where you would have to pay something, you should have to pay both, do both, pay money and receive lashes.
No.
There's only one punishment.
Well, we'll see.
Nobody holds you get two. Nobody
Well,
holds you get two.
let's see.
Okay.
Hey,
All right.
how is that possible? Idelo atrube. If you didn't warn him, amai loket, why then would he receive flogging? Elepshita. But rather it's obvious. The atrube, that they warned him. Vatama delit ba shave pruta, and the fact that the injuries were less than a pruta. Ha itba shave pruta, mamona mishalem, milka lo laki. But here he says, where there is, okay, where you warned him, and the injury is worth more than a pruta, then you pay the money, and you don't have to. He doesn't receive malka.
So this is not a proof.
Right. So in other words, here too, we can't say that when there's the both punishments, that okay, that you have to always pay both. That's Kid'amar Rabbi Ilah, as was said by Rabbi Ilah. Befeiru, Rivta Torah, Edim Zomamim L'Tashlumim, that the Torah included for the situation of Edim Zomamim, the necessity of payment. Hachanami Befeirush, Rivta Torah, Chovel B'Chaveiro L'Tashlumim. And here too, he argues that the Torah included, when one injures another person, the requirement, the punishment of payment.
Even though they should get
Right.
Malkus, but the Torah wants you to pay.
The Heicha Itmar, the Rabbi Ila'a. So the Gemara naturally asks, on what basis does Rabbi Ila'a get this view? Okay. Me'idim anu et ish ploni, shechayav lechaveiro matayim zuz. Okay, we bring testimony, okay, regarding so-and-so that is obligated to pay his neighbor 200 zuz. V'nimtzeu zomamim, and we find witnesses that were false witnesses. Lokin u'mishalmin, they receive malchus and they have to pay. Shalo Hashem hamavi'im lidei makot mevi'im lidei tashlumin. Okay, that we say in this case, right, that we don't say that since it brings the malchus, since it brings the flogging, okay, whether or not it has to also bring payment. Divrei Rabbi Meir, that was the view of Rabbi Meir. Chachamim omrim, but the sages say, Kol hamishalim eino lokeh. Whoever pays does not receive malchus, flogging. V'nema, let us say, Kol halokeh eino mishalem. If that's the case, maybe we should also say, whoever receives flogging doesn't have to pay. Amar Rabbi Eli. However, Rabbi Eli responds and says, "B'feirush rivta Torah edim zomamim l'tashlumin." No, the Torah explicitly includes that for edim zomamim, not only do they get flogging, but they also have to pay. Hechan rivta Torah, where is it that the Torah included this? Michdei kativ, since it's written as follows, Va'asitem lo kasher zamam la'asot la'achiv. Okay, that you do to him, okay, as they wanted to do to the other guy. Right? So what happens? Citing the pasuk, yad biyad. Why does it say one hand to another? In other words, something that goes from one hand to another. Lamali, why? Means davar hanitan miyad liyad, something that passes from one hand to another. Umay nihu, and what might that be? Mamon, that would be money. Okay? Chover b'chaveiro nami, and when it comes to injuring another person also, michdei ktiv, since here too it's written, ka'asher asa kein ya'aselo, as was done to him, so shall be done to that one. Kein yinatein bo, likewise something will be done to him. Lamali, why is that there? Davar sheyesh bo netina, umay nihu mamon, something that can be given. And what is that? Money. Okay? So what happens? The Rebbe Yochanan, Ma'itama lo amar ka'ula. What was the reason that Rabbi Yochanan didn't give the answer like Ula? Im kain bitalt ervat achotcha lo tigaleh. If that's the case, you would nullify, okay, abolish the prohibition of ervat achotcha lo tigaleh, that the nakedness of your sister, okay, you would not reveal. Okay, and just a tiny bit on to Lamed Gimel. Chovel b'chaveiro nami, he says. Right, but couldn't you apply the same situation to when one injures another person? Im kain, if that's the case, bitalta lo yosif pen yosif. You then do away with the abolishing the prohibition of not to exceed. Edim zomamim nami. with Edim Zamamim also. Im Kain Bitalta Vahaya Im Ben Hakot Harasha. You would then abolish again another prohibition about the guilty man deserving punishment. Ela Edim Zomamim Efshar Lekiyuma Ben Grusha uben Chalutza. Okay, but regarding the Edim Zomamim, you are able to make a parallel with the situation of somebody who was the son of a divorcee or the son of a Chalutza. Okay, and Chavel Bechavero Nami Ika Lekiyuma Kagon Shehikahu Haka'a She'ein Ba Shave Pruta. That here again, we could compare it to the situation where he struck him so that the injury wasn't Shave Pruta, but still he would get punished. And we'll stop right there and we'll pick that up on Monday.
We're not learning tomorrow?
No, there
Not on
is,
Shabbos?
no, there is because of it being the Eve Tisha B'Av situation.
Oh,
So
it is?
there, right. Okay.
Right, okay.